The Templeton International Version of the Bible is the first version of the Bible ever to be produced using the principle of sound doctrine. Why is sound doctrine important? Well, because Jesus, the apostles, and the prophets teach us as believers to follow sound doctrine so that we as believers are not led astray by false doctrine. While sound doctrine is beneficial to your life, the lives of the people you love, and your nation, false doctrine is detrimental. Now, a promise of the Christ is found here in Luke 21:15, the King James Version of the Bible. For I will give you a mouth and wisdom, which all your adversaries shall not be able to gainsay nor resist. So sound doctrine obliterates false doctrine and can be used to refute gainsaying. So gainsaying is when a preacher is preaching something that's better than what the Bible says, or it's too good to be true, right? They're just saying it because it's what people like to hear and it makes a lot of money. Okay, and Christ says, hey, you'll be able to refute this by sound doctrine. And so Christ's whole ministry is based off of sound doctrine, right? You see the Christ throughout the Bible going up to people and saying, hey, you hypocrites, what you're saying, you don't do it or you can't do it. It doesn't make any sense, right? And so who else stands with sound doctrine? Well, the apostles and the prophets also teach us as believers to follow sound doctrine. So here is the apostle Titus. But as for you, teach what accords with sound doctrine. Here's the prophet Job. You have said my doctrine is sound and I am pure in your sight. And here's the prophet Solomon. I give you sound learning, so do not forsake my teaching. And these are just a few of many, many verses found throughout the Bible which instruct us as believers to follow and hold to sound doctrine, because that is what is beneficial to your life. Now, the principle of sound doctrine is also very important as an author or group of authors translating a version of the Bible, going from one language into another. As an example of this, let's go through this. As a reader, it is important to understand that while translating any interpretation of the Bible, a single word in ancient Hebrew or Greek can be translated into a few words in English, not just one. As an example of this, let's say that the ancient Greek word pedazo could be translated into English as only one of 4 different words. Now, it's important to understand that due to the popularity of the Bible, the word pedazo in ancient Greek has been translated into English in an upwards of 20 plus words. But for this example, let's just say that it can only be translated as one of 4 different words: test, try, tempt, or prove. Now, by using the principle of sound doctrine, we can reduce the total potential number of words a word in ancient Greek or Hebrew can be translated into English, down from 4 to 2, and even sometimes just a single word, thereby drastically increasing the accuracy of the translation and reducing overall contradictions. Now, when we as authors examine these contradictions, they are often simply just author errors made while translating from ancient Greek or Hebrew into English, stemming from this translation process, right, where the author is selecting a word. Now, for an example, in Matthew 4:7, the English Standard Version, we see Jesus saying, "You shall not put the Lord your God to the test." However, in the English Standard Version of 1 John 4:1, we see the Apostle John saying, "Do not believe every spirit, but test the spirits," right? And so this creates a contradiction, right? Where Jesus is saying, do not put the Lord your God to the test. But John is saying, test the spirits, right? And so this is simply, again, stemming from this translation process. The author has poorly chosen a word and not checked it for contradictions. However, by using the principle of sound doctrine, we can resolve this contradiction. Templeton International Version of Matthew 4:7, you shall not tempt the Lord your God. And in 1 John, we see the Apostle John saying, my beloved, do not believe every spirit, but test whether the spirits are of God, right? And so this resolves the contradiction between the Apostle John and the Christ, right? Now, when you apply this, right, to a 1,350-page book, it drastically increases the accuracy, right? And so, are there other verses that we can look at that suggest that maybe sometimes you might want to test a spirit as the Apostle John is saying? And so here in Judges 6:39, the New King James Version of the Bible, we can see the prophet Gideon testing God. Then Gideon said to God, "Do not be angry with me, but let me speak just once more. Let me test, I pray, just once more with the fleece," right? And so here, God is instructing Gideon to go to war for him. And Gideon is saying, hey, I'm not really sure that this is God. If it is God, let me test God with the fleece, right? And so in very important things, right, as we see in the prophet Gideon, right, you may want to test the spirits as the Apostle John is suggesting, right? So when you analyze these verses and compare them with one another, right, you can resolve a lot of contradictions that exist currently in some translations of the Bible, right? And so please take a moment, right, to understand what translating a version of the Bible with the Principle of Sound Doctrine has to offer, and what translating a version of the Bible without the Principle of Sound Doctrine could mean.